Ever imagine yourself working in a job, well, let's just say a job that's a little less ordinary?
Less ordinary, more, how should we put it, explosive.
Exactly. Today, we're diving headfirst into a career that's all about controlled detonations, a world where knowing your fuse from your dynamite is just the tip of the iceberg.
We're talking about shot firers.
Yes, shot firers, those highly skilled professionals who work with explosives day in and day out. And we're not just talking about blowing things up, though that is definitely part of it.
There's a lot more to it than meets the eye.
Right. We're going to learn from RoleCatcher's career guide about the ins and outs of this profession, what it takes to be a shot firer, the skills, the dangers.
And believe me, it's a fascinating mix of technical know-how, calculated risk-taking, and honestly, a whole lot of brain power.
It's definitely one of those paths less traveled, for sure. So let's start with the basics. What exactly does a shot firer do?
Well, they use explosives. I mean, that's a given, right? They use these explosives to break things up.
Break things up like,
Think like rock, soil, concrete, anything that needs to be, I don't know, cleared away or demolished, whether it's for construction, mining, or even, sometimes even special effects.
oh, wow, special effects. I
Yeah.
never would have thought about that.
Oh, yeah. They're the ones who set up the charges, make sure everything is prepped, and, of course, safe for detonation.
So it's like, what, controlled demolition, but like on a whole other level.
Exactly,
Because, I
yes.
mean, you can't just be like, lighting a stick of dynamite. I mean, there's got to be more to it than that.
Oh, yeah, there's way more to it than that. It's not just, like you said, lighting a fuse and running.
Right, right. And the guide mentions that they need a deep understanding of explosives, like really understanding what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely, a deep understanding.
So what does that even mean? Like, how does
Yeah.
one even begin to gain a deep understanding of explosives?
Well, they have to know, I mean, really know the science behind the different types of explosives,
Mm,
how they react, which ones to use in what situation, because it's not one size fits all, right?
right.
And how to handle them safely, of course. I mean, that's a given, right? For example, they might use a low velocity explosive, something like ANFO, for quarrying massive amounts of rock.
Okay.
But then they might need a high velocity explosive for more, delicate demolitions. Think like imploding a building in a crowded urban area. It's about choosing the right tool for the job. And of course, that requires a ton of knowledge and experience.
That makes sense. So you mentioned tools,
Yeah.
and it got me thinking, what kind of work environment does a shot firer typically find themselves in? Because I can't imagine it's your typical 9 to 5 office job.
You are right about that. I mean, when you're dealing with explosives, a cushy office is the last thing on your mind.
Yeah, I would imagine. So paint me a picture. What's it actually like?
Picture this. You could be out in the scorching heat one day, freezing your butt off the next, and it's not just the weather, right?
Right.
You're dealing with the constant roar of machinery, and let's not forget the blasts themselves. One day, you might be perched precariously on a mountaintop for a mining project. The next, you're squeezing through the cramped tunnels of a demolition site.
Okay, so definitely not for the claustrophobic type then.
Not at all. And it's physically demanding, too. You need to be in good shape to handle the heavy lifting, the awkward positions, the long hours.
It's definitely not for the faint of heart. That much is clear.
Right.
And RoleCatcher definitely doesn't try to hide the physical demands and potential hazards. But with those risks, I'm guessing there are some, pretty strict safety protocols in place. Am I right?
You are absolutely right. Safety is like the #1 priority in this line of work. I mean, you're dealing with explosives, right?
Right.
So it's not just about protecting the shot fire themselves, but everyone on site.
Of course. Of course.
That's why, having a deep understanding of and following those safety regulations without fail is essential. It's like non-negotiable. These guys and gals go through incredibly tough training and certification processes to handle these really high-pressure situations. And speaking of those certifications, that's actually something really interesting we should probably delve into a little bit more.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Certifications, right?
Yeah.
So you were about to tell us about the certifications that shot firers need to have.
Yeah, yeah. They're kind of like badges of honor in their field. They show that someone's really serious about safety and knows their stuff.
Well, when you're dealing with explosives, safety is definitely a top priority. So what kind of certifications are we talking about?
RoleCatcher highlights a few really important ones, like the Hazardous Materials Technician certification.
Okay.
Because, obviously they need to know how to handle and dispose of hazardous materials.
Yeah, that's a given, right? I mean, they're working with potentially dangerous stuff every day.
Every single day.
Makes sense. What else is there?
Then there's the Blaster Certificate, which is like proof that you know how to handle and detonate explosives safely and effectively.
Okay.
And you know what else they need?
What's that?
First aid and CPR certification.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Why is that so important, you think?
Well, it just goes to show that, like, safety in this line of work isn't just about the explosives themselves.
Right.
They
Yeah.
need to be ready for anything that might happen. It's about being prepared, you know?
Right. So they're not just experts in demolition, but also in first response if something goes wrong.
Exactly. Because, let's face it, things don't always go according to plan, do they?
Definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
And that really highlights the weight of responsibility that comes with this job.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, lives are literally in their hands.
Speaking of responsibility, RoleCatcher's guide also talked about the career path of a Shotfirer. I found it really interesting how someone can move up the ranks from entry level all the way to a seasoned expert.
Yeah, there's a clear progression, and each step comes with more responsibility, more knowledge.
So let's break it down a bit. Where does it all begin?
Well, it usually starts with an entry-level shot firer,
Okay.
and they're basically assisting more experienced shot firers on site, like learning the ropes.
So kind of like an apprenticeship.
Exactly, like a hands-on apprenticeship. They're prepping sites, getting familiar with the equipment, and of course, those all-important safety protocols.
It sounds like a crucial foundation to build on. So what comes next?
Next up is a junior shot firer.
Okay.
Now, this is where they start taking on more independent responsibilities. They're putting all that knowledge they've gained into practice.
So what kind of things would a junior shot firer be doing?
Well, they'd be conducting pre-blast surveys.
What's a pre-blast survey?
So basically, they're doing a thorough check of the site. They're looking for any potential hazards and figuring out the best blasting strategy.
Okay.
And they might even start mentoring newer shot firers, passing on what they've learned.
Oh, wow. So there's mentorship involved too.
Yeah, it's a big part of the job. Passing on that knowledge and experience to the next generation is important.
That's fantastic. It must be incredibly rewarding to guide someone new and watch them develop their skills.
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing quite like it.
But I'm guessing the learning never really stops, even for the most experienced shot firers, right?
Never. It's a continuous learning process, always staying updated on the latest techniques, technologies, you name it.
It's like they're constantly evolving alongside the field itself.
Exactly. And as a junior shot firer gains more experience, they can eventually become a senior shot firer.
Okay.
And that's like being the maestro of explosives.
So what sets a senior shot firer apart? What do they do that's different?
Well, they're the ones designing those like really complex blast sequences. They take everything into account. Soil composition, how strong a structure is, even the environment and the communities nearby.
Wow. So it's not just about knowing how to use explosives. It's about understanding their impact on everything around them.
Precisely, and that's a huge responsibility. They're literally shaping landscapes and, in a way, shaping the future of those areas.
That's a really powerful way to think about it. It's not just demolition. It's creation as well.
It's both. It's about understanding the delicate balance between the two.
It sounds like there's a huge mental component to this job. It's not just about physical strength, but mental strength too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a miscalculation could have really serious consequences.
Right.
So, yeah, the pressure is immense. They have to be able to stay calm under pressure and make split-second decisions.
It's like they're always playing a high-stakes game of chess, but with real-world consequences.
That's a great analogy, right? It's like, they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders, but they make it look easy.
They really do.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, right? With great power comes great responsibility. And they're dealing with some serious power here.
Absolutely. And we're not just talking about the explosives themselves. We're talking about the potential impact on everything around them, the environment, nearby structures, communities.
Right. It's like a ripple effect.
Exactly. One wrong move, and those ripples could turn into shock waves.
And they're the ones responsible for making sure that doesn't happen.
Which is why they need to be so incredibly detail-oriented.
Right.
And adaptable. Things change on a dime in this line of work, They got to be able to think on their feet and come up with solutions when the unexpected happens.
Which I imagine is pretty often in this line of work, right?
All the time. Every project is different. Every location has its own quirks.
So how do they do it? How do they handle that kind of pressure day in and day out?
Well, experience is key, that's for sure. The more experience they have, the better they are at reading a situation, anticipating potential problems.
So it's like, what, they develop an intuition for it? Like they can just sense when something's not quite right?
Exactly. It's like they develop a sixth sense for how explosives will behave in different environments.
Wow, that's incredible. So it sounds like this career attracts a certain type of person, someone who, I don't know, who thrives on challenge, who's drawn to that kind of pressure.
Absolutely. Someone who's not afraid of hard work, who's meticulous, who takes safety incredibly seriously.
Because, let's face it, it's not just a job. It's a huge responsibility. They're shaping the world around us, literally.
They are. Every bridge we cross, every tunnel we drive through, every building that goes up, there's a good chance a shot firer played a part in making it happen.
It's true. We don't often think about it, but they're the ones who lay the groundwork for so much of what we take for granted.
And they do it all with incredible precision and expertise.
It's been amazing learning about this profession with you today. We've only just scratched the surface, but it's clear that there's a lot more to being a shot firer than meets the eye.
Definitely. And if anyone wants to learn more, RoleCatcher mentioned a great resource, the International Society of Explosives Engineers.
Oh, perfect. We'll make sure to include a link to that on our show notes. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of shot firers, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that these are the unsung heroes of construction, demolition, and resource extraction. They're shaping our world, one carefully calculated blast at a time.
And they're doing it with a level of skill and dedication that's truly remarkable.
Well said. That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time when we explore another fascinating career path.